Hello, everyone. Today we'll be reviewing ACC406 Managerial Accounting. A quick hint for this video is to remember anytime you are finding a variance, you will need to place either the letter U or F beside it. This will become clearer as we work through the problem. We will be taking a closer look into Chapter 10, Standard Costing. The first variance is materials variance. In this question, the following information is key. Sophia Company replaces doors for residential customers. To help ensure cost efficiency, the following standards have been established. So in the chart, you have the columns of standard quantity, standard price, and standard cost. In the rows, you have direct materials, direct labor, and variable overhead. During the week, the company had the following actual results. So you have units produced, actual labor costs, actual labor hours, materials purchased and used, and actual variable overhead costs. It is recommended for you to pause the video and jot down the amounts on a piece of paper to make it easier to follow along during the video. Step 1 is finding the price and usage variance. There are two ways to approach solving variance problems. You have the chart/column approach and you have the equation approach. In the problem that we are going to solve today, I will show you how to solve the problem using both approaches. From there, your next step would be using both approaches while doing homework questions and then picking whichever approach works best for you. Keep in mind, sometimes you do not have the option of choosing one approach over another. The textbook question may provide you information that only works for a certain approach. So it is important to have a good understanding of both approaches. And I will show you what I mean in greater detail later on when we start solving the problem. Step 2 is finding the following values. When looking at a materials variance, you will need to find the amounts for actual price, actual quantity, standard price, and standard quantity. Essentially, looking at what price did you estimate the item to have versus what was the actual price, and same goes for quantity. Estimated, budgeted, and standard all mean the same thing. Looking back at the question, we can see that the chart has been broken down into estimated amounts and actual amounts. From there, we can figure out that the actual price is $4.10 at the actual quantity of 167,000. Next is finding the standard value. This one is a little more straightforward as one column is called standard quantity and another is called standard price. Only key thing is to ensure you are looking at the direct materials row since we're doing the materials variance. Meaning that standard price is $3.75 and standard quantity is found by taking the unit quantity standard and multiplying it by actual output. This means standard quantity is 175,000. The reason we multiply it is because standard output isn't given in total form, and when you are doing variance questions, both actual and standard amounts have to be measured using the same values. For example, both quantities have to be totals and both prices have to be per unit. A tip to remember is the actual values and the standard values have to be relatively close to each other. For example, $4.10 and $3.75 are relatively close to each other. Now we are jumping into solving the problem using the chart/column approach. The reason I made us find the values first is to make solving using the approaches easier. All we need to do is fill in the blanks. Actual costs are found by multiplying both the actual values. Standard costs are found by multiplying both the standard values. Budgeted cost is the middle box, and it is found by multiplying actual quantity by standard price. So as you can see, we're taking one piece of the actual section, and we're taking one piece of the standard section. From there, to find price variance, you minus the actual cost by the budgeted costs. So you're taking this amount and this amount. This means that the price variance is positive 58,450. And since it is positive, it is unfavorable, so we place a U beside it. To find the usage variance, you minus budgeted cost by standard costs. That means you're taking the middle value and the last value, and you're minusing them. This means that the usage variance is negative 30,000. And since it is negative, this means that it is favorable, and we place an F beside it. And we do not include the negative sign. So the F is replacing the negative sign, the same way in financial accounting, a bracket would represent a negative number. Now that we solved the exercise using the chart/column approach, let's use the equation approach and see if we get the same answer. To get the materials price variance, you will be minusing both price values in the bracket and then multiplying by the actual quantity. So a little hint is if you see the word price, price is going to be in the bracket, and then the opposite, which is quantity, will be outside of the bracket. This means that the price variance is positive 58,450, and since it is positive, it is unfavorable, so we place a U beside it. To get the usage variance, you will be minusing both quantity values in the bracket and then multiplying it by the standard price. So again, we're looking at usage. So quantity will be in the bracket, and then the opposite of it, so price, will be on the outside of the bracket. This means that the usage variance is negative 30,000, and since it is negative, this means that it is favorable, and we place an F beside it. And again, we do not include the negative sign. As you can see, we got the same results no matter what approach we used, but let's see if this occurs for the labor variance. So the next variance we're going to be looking at is the labor variance. Here is the question one more time in case you need a quick refresher. So first step is always looking at the two approaches. So this, again, as a reminder, we're going to be solving using both methods and seeing if they result in the same answer. Right off the bat, we can see that there's no value for the actual rate in the question. All we can see is actual labor costs. So for now, we'll skip actual rate. Actual hours is found in the actual values chart, which is 9,250. Standard rate and hours is found easier, just like standard price and quantity using the first chart, but this time we'll be using the direct labor row. Standard rate is 15 and standard hours are found by multiplying labor standard by actual output. So again, we're looking for that total number, and that number is 9,000. Again, remember that tip that the actual and standard values should be relatively close to each other, like 9,250 and 9,000. Jumping into the approaches, we'll be looking at the chart/column approach. Remember, when we can't find the actual rate amount, the reason is because the question gave us the total actual labor cost, so we just add that amount into the top left corner. Standard cost is found by multiplying standard rate by standard hours. Budgeted cost is found by multiplying actual hours by standard rate. Finding rate and efficiency variances are the same as finding price and usage variances. So for the rate variance, it's found by minusing total actual costs by total budgeted costs. So again, we're taking the first column and minusing it by the middle column. This means that the rate variance is negative 2,916. And since it is negative, this means that it is favorable, and we place an F beside it. Again, not including the negative sign. Efficiency variance is found by minusing total budgeted cost by total standard cost. So just as a quick reminder, taking that middle column and minusing it by the last column. This means that the efficiency variance is positive 3,750, and since it is positive, it is unfavorable, so we place a U beside it. Now we will do our final approach, which is the equation approach. Let's take a look at the labor efficiency variance first. Since efficiency is referring to quantity, we will be minusing actual and standard hours in the bracket and multiplying standard rate outside of the bracket. So again, efficiency is referring to quantity. So we're going to take our quantity in the bracket, and then our opposite, which is rate, will be outside of the bracket. This will give us positive 3,750. And since it is positive, it is unfavorable, so we will place a U beside it. Looking at the labor rate variance, we can see that we hit a wall since we do not have the actual rate value. This is what I was referring to earlier when I said sometimes the question doesn't allow you the option of choosing which approach you want. To get the labor rate variance, you will have to use the chart/column approach. If the question asks you to find the actual rate, that's when you can solve for X by putting the above equation equal to the labor rate variance amount. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the video helpful. As a little recap, we talked about the standard costing, materials variance, and labor variance of Chapter 10. Visit the past YouTube channel for more videos to help understand challenging concepts.